Welcome to Fun Facts Daily, your source for just the good stuff. Monday through Friday, we're bringing fun facts and news you can use, all carefully curated to uplift and inform. So give yourself a break, relax, and learn something awesome in just a few minutes every day. Hi everyone, I'm Kyle Wood. Today we're going to be learning all about your auditory system, the sensory network of organs, nerves, and brain pathways that converts sound waves in the air into electrical signals in your brain. It's basically your sense of hearing. And if you're enjoying hearing this show and you want to listen without the ad breaks, check the links in the show notes because for just $3 a month on Patreon, you can listen to all my podcasts ad-free. But now, as always, before we get into the facts, let's warm up our brains with a little challenge to see if you can tell fact from fiction. Consider this. When you spin around and get dizzy, you probably feel a bit queasy in your stomach. You might have trouble standing and even seeing straight. We often think of this dizziness as just a problem with our vision. But would you believe that dizzy feeling really comes from your ears? Some say your ears aren't just for your sense of hearing, they're actually critical for your sense of balance. What do you think? Do your ears really help you stay on your feet? We'll find out at the end of the episode. Now for your word of the day. Our word for today is tinnitus. That's Tinnitus. Tinnitus is the perception of a sound like ringing, buzzing, hissing, or clicking when there's no actual acoustic source present. It's not a disease itself, but a symptom of underlying conditions within the auditory system. It typically occurs when tiny sensory hair cells inside the inner ear become damaged, causing them to leak random electrical impulses to the brain. The brain interprets these phantom signals as a continuous sound. The word tinnitus comes from the Latin verb tinere, which means to ring. Roman medical writers used variants of this root to describe head noises thousands of years ago. Today, audiologists and neuroscientists study tinnitus to understand how the brain reorganizes itself when auditory input from the world around us is reduced or lost. Time for your daily high five, our top 5 fun facts about your auditory system. Number 1. Your ears contain the 3 smallest and most delicate bones in the human body. The bones in your middle ear are collectively known as the ossicles. They're formally named the malleus, incus, and stapes, but they're commonly referred to as the hammer, the anvil, and the stirrup. The smallest of the group, the stapes, is only about 3 millimeters by 2.5 millimeters, smaller than a grain of rice. All 3 bones fit together in a space no bigger than the standard eraser on a pencil. They're small, but they serve a really important function. When sound waves hit the eardrum, these bones act as a sort of amplification system. Now, the first thing to know is that pressure is force divided by area. Now, sound waves hit the eardrum, which has an area of around 55 square millimeters, but the area of the stapes footplate pressing against the inner ear is just 3.2 square millimeters. By concentrating that force from a large area down to a tiny point, combined with subtle lever action between the bones, the ossicles amplify the sound pressure by about 20 to 1. Without this boost, sound waves traveling through the air would just bounce off the dense inner ear fluid. And in addition to the smallest bones, you'll also find the smallest muscle in the human body, the stapedius muscle, which is barely over 1 millimeter long. When exposed to loud noises, this tiny muscle contracts involuntarily in what's known as the acoustic reflex, pulling back the stapes to dampen extreme vibrations and protect your inner ear from sudden acoustic trauma. Number 2. Your ears never stop listening or processing sound, even when you're asleep. When you fall asleep, your eardrums, ossicles, and cochlear hair cells continue to detect acoustic vibrations in the air around you. Sound waves are constantly converted into neural impulses and sent up the auditory nerve without interruption. The sensory apparatus in the ear is fully active 24 hours a day. The reason you don't consciously hear everything while you're sleeping is in your brain, specifically a region called the thalamus. The thalamus acts as a sort of sensory gatekeeper, filtering out non-threatening background sounds like running water or the refrigerator hum. That's why you can sleep through a white noise machine, but something sudden and jarring, like a crashing sound, a baby crying, or your name being called, would instantly wake you up and grab your attention. The thalamus routes the signal from these biologically significant sounds right to the cerebral cortex to wake you up. Number 3. Inside your inner ear, there's a mini organ shaped like a snail shell that sorts sound by pitch. The cochlea, named after the Greek word for snail, is coiled roughly 2.5 times. Inside of it, there's the organ of Corti, home to roughly 15 to 20,000 microscopic sensory receptor hair cells. These hair cells are topped with tiny hair-like mechanosensors called stereocilia. When fluid moves through the cochlea, it bends these stereocilia, opening microscopic ion channels that trigger electrical impulses along the auditory nerve. The cochlea has a system of tonotopic organization. Basically, it processes different pitches in different sections of the cochlea. High-frequency sounds produce vibrations at the stiff, narrow base of the cochlea near the middle ear. Low-frequency sounds travel all the way to the flexible, wider apex at the inner tip. This layout allows the brain to immediately recognize pitch based on which section of the cochlea fired the signal. Number 4. The outer ear is shaped to help your brain pinpoint what direction sounds are coming from and to help you focus on the ones that matter most to you. The visible cartilage part of your outer ear is called the pinna or auricle. All those complex curves, ridges, and asymmetrical folds act as a sort of acoustic filter. When sound waves arrive at your head, they bounce off these cartilage ridges before entering your ear canal. The ridges alter the frequency of the sound based on the angle of arrival. Your brain's auditory cortex analyzes these subtle changes in sound wave frequencies known as spectral cues. In addition, the brain actually calculates the tiny time difference, often just microseconds, between when a sound hits one ear versus the other. This process, called binaural hearing, helps you to figure out exactly where different sounds came from in 3 dimensions without turning your head. And this spatial mapping powers what neuroscientists call the cocktail party effect. It's how your brain is able to lock into a single conversation and hear what your friend is saying while tuning out dozens of competing background conversations in a loud, chaotic room. And our 5th and final fun fact for today: the faintest sounds still audible to a human will move the eardrum distances smaller than the diameter of a hydrogen atom. The tympanic membrane, commonly referred to as the eardrum, is an ultra-thin cone of tissue about 1/10 of a millimeter thick. It separates the external ear canal from the middle ear cavity, flexing back and forth in response to microscopic fluctuations in air pressure. It is so sensitive that it can detect pressure variations of less than 1/billionth of standard atmospheric pressure. At the absolute threshold of human hearing, the displacement of the eardrum is less than 10 to the negative 11th meters, or about 100th of a nanometer. That's less than 1/10th of the width of a single hydrogen atom. The limits of our auditory system are just perfectly tuned to maximize sensitivity while avoiding background molecular noise. If human hearing were any more sensitive, you would constantly hear the random thermal motion of air molecules colliding in your own eardrums. Now for some news you can use. To protect your hearing when you're using your headphones, audiologists recommend the 60-60 rule. Listen to the audio at no more than 60% of your device's maximum volume and for no longer than 60 minutes at a time before taking a break. Loud sounds can damage your inner ear over time. Extended exposure to volumes above 70 to 85 decibels causes exhaustion and even physical shearing of the stereocilia on your cochlear hair cells. And once those hair cells are gone, they are gone for good. They don't regenerate. Taking scheduled acoustic rest breaks gives these cells time to recover and prevents permanent cumulative hearing loss. In addition to listening to your personal music at a reasonable volume and giving your ears a little rest, I cannot recommend strongly enough picking up a pair of good quality earplugs. Look for a label that says something like musician earplugs or acoustic filters. Unlike standard foam earplugs that muffle high frequencies and make voices sound muddy, musician earplugs are designed for a flat response, even across all frequencies, so things sound the same, just quieter. I'm glad I have always worn earplugs to concerts because I actually hear it better and enjoy the show more when it isn't overwhelmingly loud. And most people don't realize how many other environments can reach really high decibel levels. I teach, and I keep a set of earplugs on my lanyard along with my school ID and keys so I can quickly pop them in when I'm in a particularly loud space like the lunchroom. Good quality earplugs don't stop you from hearing people talking to you or anything else that might be important. They just turn the overall volume down. By blocking out some of the excess and keeping things at a comfortable level, it actually helps you focus on the things you want to hear. Finally, the moment you've been waiting for. At the beginning of the episode, I asked, do your ears really help you balance? That's a fact. Your inner ear houses the vestibular system, which is your body's primary balance control center. Right next to the cochlea, there are 3 fluid-filled loops called semicircular canals, along with 2 sensory chambers called the utricle and the saccule. Inside the semicircular canals, fluid shifts as you rotate your head, pushing against a gelatinous sail called the cupula to detect turning motions. This system detects rotational movement, gravitational pull, and linear acceleration. It continuously sends data to your brain and eyes to keep you upright and maintain clear vision while moving. When you spin in circles and then suddenly stop, the fluid keeps moving because of inertia, and that sends conflicting signals to your brain. It's this conflicting information that leaves you feeling dizzy and disoriented. Now, I hope you enjoyed learning a bit about your auditory system with me today, and be sure to tune in every weekday for even more fun facts. Fun Facts Daily is an Airwave Media podcast. It was written, recorded, mixed, and edited by me, Kyle Wood. Thanks for sharing a part of your day with me. Be sure to follow Fun Facts Daily on your favorite podcast app so you can keep the good stuff coming your way every day. And if you like the show, please do me a favor and leave a kind rating, review, or just tell your friends about it.